after the treaty, the Hellgate Treaty in 1855, in the Hellgate Treaty, there is a provision for the survey of another reservation because Victor, who was the principal leader at that time, had no intention of moving from the Bitterroot Valley. You know, he recognized that this was the Pend Oreille, the upper Pend Oreille were occupying this area, and yes, we're relatives, but that he had no intention of leaving the Bitterroot. And so the survey of the Bitterroot was supposed to be done. It was promised and guaranteed in the Hellgate Treaty, but it was never really done. And so Victor died, I believe, in 1872. And so then his son, who people are more familiar with and referred to as Chief Charlot, became the principal leader of the Bitterroot Salish. He stayed. He knew his father never intended to leave, and that was a solemn obligation. And when James Garfield was sent out to convince him to move, he had no intention and he was unwilling. And then Garfield produced a document in Washington, D.C. that supposedly had his mark on it, as if he said, okay, I'll gather everybody together and we'll move now. And he was very bitter, and to the day he died said he never agreed to leave. And they stayed in the Bitterroot until 1891. And I think poverty and pressure from the settlers forced them. I guess they were doing very poorly. And that's very sad. I think he died probably of a broken heart, having to move and then having to see allotment, and then I think he died the year they opened the reservation up to homesteading in 1910. And so, but people maintained a relationship with the Bitterroot, and a lot of people would travel there in the summer and they'd work for the farmers, which was very ironic. And when we were down there filming, Frances Vanderburg talked a lot about that and of her childhood memories. And what an irony to have been dispossessed from this land and then take your children and grandchildren, having the next generations go down there to the land you were dispossessed from and do labor work for people that owned it. And so they did, farming work, crop work. They picked strawberries, they dug potatoes. They did a lot of different things. We brought Ushni down there one time, and it was an emotional visit for her. She hadn't been there in a while, but she had those memories too of her relatives, of them going down there and working for the farmers. And so people maintained that relationship with that place, even in such a sad way, that they returned to work the land and help with crop work for other people that owned what used to be their homeland. Not that long ago, in 1891, if you think about it, that was a very recent memory of being removed from that place. And so people today still have that memory. I've been down there with Louis Adams, and I feel that kind of intimacy that people still have for the Bitterroot Valley. And I think it must be terribly sad because it's changed so much and it's so overdeveloped. So when I'm down there with elders and we're traveling around and they're talking about different places to me, then I think about what it would be like if in my lifetime we were dispossessed from this place. And then how it would feel if I was to go back with my kids and grandkids and look around, and it would be difficult. So I can only imagine that feeling.